Every day there are so many decisions to be made on this boat. One of the things we had to do was work out where we're going to put all of the different components of the nav station. Now we sat down with the CAD designer and the owner and we laid everything out, but just to be sure that it would all actually fit, we did tracings of the covers of each one of the devices and then cut them out and put them on a board to put them here at the nav station. We did the same thing for the helm up top. Note, by the way, that I said the covers and not the devices itself, because the covers are bigger. And you'd hate to put all the devices in and then figure out that you couldn't put the covers on because they were too close to the bottom or something like that. Now in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to go through each one of the individual components and talk about what it does and what capabilities it's going to give us. We're going to start at the nav station. This is pretty much the heart of the whole ship. This is where you do all your day-to-day operations. It's where you do your course plotting. It's where you do your logbook entries. And as a result, you can do pretty much anything that you need to do on the boat from right here. It's also important to note that this could be an emergency helm. Maybe you get demasted and the mast falls on the helm and crushes it. You can steer the boat from down here as well. Now we're going to work our way from the left to the right. So starting on the very far left, if we zoom in a little bit, you're going to notice that there's a button for the air horn. It's a big red button, hard to miss, momentary push. And next to it, the card reader. This allows you to put SD cards in to put things like maps and charts into the chart plotter without having to mess around at the back of the chart plotter trying to plug them directly in. Looking to the right a little bit, you can see our VHF radio up there on the top. There's a control head downstairs, there's a control head upstairs at the helm. This is a 25-watt radio, and it's important to note that it's DSC compatible. That means that it does all of the Channel 70 digital information that you want to use for emergencies and for hailing if you want to do it digitally. Down below that, you'll see two controls, one's port, one starboard, left and right. These are the engine start and stop controls, and as you can imagine, it's what you use on a normal basis to start and stop the engines. I say on a normal basis because I'm going to show you where the emergency shutoffs are in a little while. The four gauges that you see now right in front of you, the top two are actually the engine controls. And again, you've got port and starboard, left and right. This allows you to look at engine speed, oil pressure, coolant temperature, any alarms, any trouble codes that come up, pretty much everything you want to know about the operation of the engine. Down below there, you'll see two Garmin GMI 20s. Now these are multi-function displays, and the great thing about them is you can set them up to do all kind of different stuff. They pick up data off of the NEMA 2000 interface, and as a result you can set them to be whatever you want them to be at the time, and that gives you a lot of flexibility when you're setting up your control so that you can have it be the way that you want it to be. Now what we're going to do is slide to the right a little bit more, and you can see the heart of the whole control system. This is our Garmin chart plotter, and it is a big display. You can look at your nav charts, you can do chart plotting, you can do route suggestions. It'll actually tell you how you should go so you're not steering over land, for instance. You can look at your radar, your sonar. If you see any other boats in the water that have the automatic identification system, they'll pop up here. You can click on them and get more information about them. If you get into those electronic DSC alerts on channel 70 on the VHF radio, they'll pop up here. You can also, it's kind of redundant, but you can look at your wind gauges, you can look at all the alerts from the engines, and you can also look at the CCTV cameras. That's pretty important because it's a big boat and it's hard to see over the edges, but you can look at the camera to the right and see how far away you are from the dock. All that you can see on the chart plotter itself. We're going to slide to the right a little bit more. And up at the top here, that top gauge you see is one of the dedicated gauges. This is what you use to control the auto helm. So set your course, set it to a particular wind hold, change the address, change the area that you're traveling to, tack and jibe automatically. A lot of control for auto helm right there. And down below that, another dedicated control. This is the wind rose. And it'll give you all kind of information about exactly where the wind's coming from, where it appears to be coming from, and it also gives them some extra data that again is redundant given the other gauges that you have. Now, I mentioned that you could actually control the boat from here. You can control the bow thruster. Just grab this joystick and push it left or right. You push it in the direction you want the boat to go, which is important. And then there's also the controls for the engines. This is how you change the gears to forward and reverse. And there is 2 different controls here, one on the left, one on the right, and those are for your port and starboard engines. Now we're moving over to the kind of the center of the console, and the first thing we're going to see is the switch controls. It's important to note that all over this boat you can have multiple switches for the same lights. Maybe it's the down lights or your courtesy lights. When you turn one of them on, they all light up. If you turn the other one off, and you can turn it off from someplace else, then the lights all go off. So maybe you're upstairs and you turn them on, and then you get downstairs and, ooh, I forgot to turn those off. You can turn them off from downstairs. It's a pretty handy setup on that. Now above that and to the right, you see the bilge controls. We don't actually have these yet, so I'm just showing you a diagram of what they're going to look like. You can force the bilges to work, or if they're running by themselves, it lights up to tell you and makes a little sound to let you know. Down below that are all our tank fill indicators. Water, fresh water, black water. Do I need to go in and empty the sewage tanks? Pump them out, or if you're out in the middle of the ocean, can you just dump them? Now we're going to slide to the right a little bit more. First thing you see there is your whisper power control. This shows you everything you need to know about the electrical systems on the boat. Battery information, inverter data, how much power you're getting off your solar panels, is the generator running, how much power are you getting off the generator. Now you can't control the generator from here, but you can see information about it. But right next to it, there is a place where you can start and stop the generator, set up auto start when the batteries go to a certain voltage, things along those lines. And you can also start the generator from over by the generator as well. Now just below the whisper controls, you can see the Fireboy displays. Fireboy is our fire suppression system, and there are systems in both of the engine rooms as well as the generator room. They automatically deploy when the heat reaches a certain limit, and it's a clean setup, so you're not cleaning up a bunch of powder or mess if they do in fact put a fire out. The controls that are there, the one on the far left shows you if there's a smoke alarm in any of the places, and the 3 to the right are the 3 different zones that are covered, and it actually lets you know if the system has been deployed to put out a fire. And of course, that makes a big alert. Continuing across, we're going to slide to the right a little bit more, and you can see our satellite radio system. In this case, it's the 330-100 using the Iridium satellite set. We can make voice calls, send short messages, and we can also get data off the system if we can't get it any other way and supply it via Wi-Fi. It's not fast, but it works. Just below the satellite radio, you can see the regular radio. It's actually the control head for the stereo system, the Fusion Apollo stereo system. This is for the bottom of the boat. Pretty decent stereo system, subwoofer, the whole thing. It's going to sound great. If we zoom out just a little bit, you can see that there's a printer, and below that you can see the emergency start-stops that I talked about for the engines. So that is the Nav Station. We've been through all the components of it. What we're going to do now is move our way up. So now we're moving up to the top side to the helm. This is actually where you steer the boat from, and this is up on the flybridge. You can see that a lot of the gear is exactly the same, but there are some unique things. So let's start from the left and work to the right, again like we did last time. Starting at the top, you can see the controls for the 2 electric winches, 2 on the port side, 2 on the starboard side. Down below that are the furler controls for the boom, the screecher, and the Genoa, in and out. And then if we move down a little bit farther, you can see the VHF radio control, exactly the same one downstairs. Okay, moving over, you can see the Yanmar controls. These are the same as they were on the nav station downstairs, and the start-stop for the engine are exactly the same as they were, plus the light switches, same as they were downstairs. Consistency. But I want to draw your attention to this thing right in the middle. This is the windlass control, and it basically runs the chain up and down with the anchor on it, but most importantly, it tells you exactly how many feet or meters of chain you have out, so you can calculate your 7-to-1 rode on the anchor. So, we're going to come back and move to the right a little bit. We have the same chart plotter, the same head unit. So this one controls the audio for the upstairs of the boat, and the same switches down below there. Looking to the right a little bit more, you can see that we've got the same 4 multifunction displays, as well as the controls for steering the boat with the auto helm, the engine controls, and the winch controls. So, consistency, consistency, consistency. We've seen all the parts of the Helm and the Nav Station and all the components that are going to be on there. Maybe it wasn't the most exciting video we've ever done.
But if you're building a boat or thinking about redoing the electronics on your boat, it would be a pretty helpful video.
Maybe so. Hopefully next week we'll do something more exciting.
Haven't figured out what that might be, but we will.
Thanks for joining us. See you next week.
Don't forget to subscribe.